There are few European cities more enchanting than Prague. With its characterful old town, the iconic Charles Bridge, and some of the world's most beautiful libraries. This is one of the most stunning cities I've ever visited solo, and I can't wait to share it with you. From magical marionette shops to fabulous modern sculpture. I had 3 full days to explore Prague and started with a visit to the famous Astronomical Clock. Constructed in 1410, it's the oldest working astronomical clock in the world, and quite a crowd gathers for the hourly show. Its 2 beautiful dials show not only the date and time, but also the movement of the sun and moon, as well as the zodiac sign the sun is currently in, and the seasonal jobs to be done. I came back for a second viewing because it's just so gorgeous, with its parade of disciples, the skeleton ringing his bell, and the golden cockerel which crows at the end. From the clock tower, make your way to the main square in the old town and spend a bit of time admiring Our Lady Before Tyn, the stunning Gothic cathedral with its 2 towers called Adam and Eve, with Adam being 1 metre taller than Eve. There are some beautiful buildings here, and I spent quite a bit of time simply taking them all in. There are also some rather delectable shops, selling everything from sweet treats to Bohemian glass, garnets, and amber. One of Prague's most famous sights is the Charles Bridge, which crosses the Vltava River. Like the old town, it can get very crowded. I crossed a few times and it was definitely quieter in the morning. I was excited to see it as a scene from the film Yentl was shot here, and it was the only time the bridge has been closed for filming. Look out for the wooden structures which help prevent ice from damaging the bridge in the long cold winters they have here, and the spot Dépêche Mode fans may recognise from an album cover. There are many impressive statues on the bridge, and one tells the story of St. John of Nepomuk, who was tortured and flung off the bridge on the orders of King Wenceslas IV. Some of the scenes from his life have been polished by the enthusiastic touch of tourists. The river is a lovely place to simply stroll, and I very much enjoyed walking in this area. But you can always take the tram if you prefer. I was excited to cross the bridge to Strelecky Island. There are lovely views back to the city from here, and it's where you'll find an unusual Prague resident, the Nutria, or koipiu, a large rodent originally brought to Europe for the fur trade. Feeding them is frowned upon by the locals, but they are definitely endearing creatures, and I was delighted to see 2 babies. The dancing house can be found overlooking the river, also known as Fred and Ginger. It was completed in 1996. There's a cafe at the top and a viewing platform, but there's a small charge for this. I love the mix of modern and old in Prague. And do look out for Man Hanging Out sculpture, which depicts psychoanalyst Sigmund Freud. The Powder Tower is another stunning building you shouldn't miss. Completed in 1475, it used to store gunpowder. I love the juxtaposition of this dark and ancient building next to the gloriously light and inspiring Municipal house from the Art Nouveau period. Do pop inside to marvel at the interior as I did. It's glorious. Prague-born writer Franz Kafka is celebrated all over the city, and the wonderful rotating head sculpture puts on an hourly display. Installed in 2014, there are 42 rotating stainless steel panels, and it's particularly lovely to watch when the sun is glinting off the silver layers. And perhaps the complexity of the movement echoes the fascinating mind and stories of Kafka. The Klementinum is Prague's second largest building complex after the castle. And Dan Brown fans might recognise it from his latest novel. I'd booked a time tour with an English-speaking guide for midday. It's a good idea to book this in advance as it's very popular. The spiral staircases and old steps were definitely a challenge, but the views from the top made them all worthwhile. And the Klementinum Library housed here has to be one of the most beautiful rooms in Europe, full of three of my favourite things: books, clocks and globes. You can also see the Mirror Chapel here. I'd booked a ticket for an evening concert with a lovely programme, and it was a real delight to spend time in this special room. I was staying at Hotel Elite, which is built around a former monastery. It was a lovely place to come back to after a good day's sightseeing and was only a 10-minute walk away from all the main attractions, including the Jewish quarter with its beautiful buildings, including 6 synagogues. We're returning to Charles Bridge now and crossing it all the way to Mala Strana. Fans of Mission Impossible may recognise these steps. The entry into the town here is gorgeous. And I love the pastel colours of these tall townhouses. It's a steep uphill climb, but I had a little stop at Czech Marionettes, admiring its array of characters from ancient to modern. Prague is a city of stories, from the times of the alchemists to the creation of the golem, the protector of the Jewish people. I certainly wouldn't want to mess with him. From here, I continued uphill, admiring the views out over the city and up to the Petrin Tower. I arrived at the castle in time for the changing of the guard, which was very impressive, with the musicians appearing at the windows like something out of a fairy tale. Prague Castle is the largest castle complex in the world, and its old royal palace is home to the Vladislav Hall, which dates from the 16th century and would have been used for state functions, banquets, and markets selling luxury goods. And it's still very much in use today. You can also see copies of the crown jewels, with the originals kept in St. Vitus Cathedral in an iron safe with 7 locks, for which there are 7 key holders. There's also the window of the Defenestration, from where in 1618 Protestant nobles threw 2 Catholic regents, sparking the 30 Years' War. But it's St. Vitus Cathedral that's the real showstopper, and I love these gates with astrological sculptures and seasonal scenes from rural life. St. Vitus Cathedral has some really wonderful stained glass, including some fabulous modern ones. You can also see the tomb of St. Wenceslas in its beautiful chapel, decorated with scenes from his life. The rather magical Golden Lane is also within the castle complex. It was super crowded here, and you have to have a bit of patience if you want to squeeze into the tiny houses and shops. Created at the end of the 15th century, you can get glimpses into how some of the houses would have been used during its 500-year history. This tiny property makes the most of its space using fold-away stairs. I love number 12, the home of Josef Kazda, a film historian who concealed Czech films here during the Nazi occupation. I'd been looking forward to seeing number 22, the place where Franz Kafka wrote during the First World War. This tiny house was Kafka's retreat from the noisy city, so he could write his stories in peace, and you can buy them here today in many different languages. But perhaps the most surprising thing here is the hidden corridor in the fortifications above Golden Lane. An impressive stone walkway is home to a collection of armour and weaponry. I loved the chance to explore this old part of the castle. And is this where tourists have tried to spend a penny? There were some pretty heavy rain clouds over the city when I left the castle. But the sunshine did keep breaking through as I headed further uphill, passing the stunning Schwatzenberg Palace. And more lovely townhouses. And the Loretto Sanctuary, which I wish I'd had time to take a closer look at. After all my walking, I succumbed to Chimney Cake. It's more Hungarian than Czech, but a rather fun snack, and I was able to pay using euros. I was heading to Strahov Monastery, a wonderful complex of buildings, and I had a quick look at the church before buying my ticket to enter the main building. You enter via a room full of medieval portraits and books including the Strahov Gospel, whose ornate enamel discs date from the 12th century. The cabinets of curiosities in this wonderful hall are next, their contents ranging from strange sea creatures to globes. And even the private parts of 2 whales. An extraordinary thing to end up in a glass cabinet. But it's the 2 libraries here that are the real draw. The Philosophical Library is very elegant, and the ceiling fresco was completed in 1796. The Theological Library dates from the 17th century, and its ornate Baroque ceiling is breathtaking. The shelves are topped with gilded wood, featuring cartouches with inscriptions to indicate the contents of the shelves below. Thank you so much for watching. Prague is an absolutely enchanting city, and I found it very safe as a female traveller and very walkable. Although I did make use of the occasional Uber as I ran out of energy having caught a horrible cold. But I hope you get to explore it for yourself one day and discover its magic too.